It's hard to imagine leaving the glamorous world of entertainment for a career on the racetrack, but Tampa-based Bobby and Mary Hodge traded in the spotlight of Nashville's Grand Ole Opry for a different kind of limelight, the winner's circle of Florida's thoroughbred tracks. Being musically inclined may or may not contribute to the making of a good horseman, but it was this talent that allowed Bobby Hodge to operate his own country and western lounge, entertain at will, and yet devote enough time to his latest business interest, thoroughbred racing.
Well, I was in country music, and we lived in Madison, Wisconsin when we came to Florida 12 years ago. But I was on the Grand Ole Opry, featured on the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville in '61 and '62, like when Loretta Lynn came on. Her first night on the Opry, we followed each other on the Opry. Her husband, Mooney, and my wife, Mary, were afraid we were going to trip over the microphone cords and that type of thing. But I still play. I play in my club up there, the Maverick Lounge by Tampa Bay Downs.
My husband bought his first racehorse, and of course we own a lounge at Tampa Bay Downs where there's all owners and trainers and jockeys and so on, and all the talk with the horses and all the information that you hear at a bar. And so we got interested that way, and he bought a $250 racehorse.
I came here and bought the Maverick over there. Most jockeys and horsemen came in, and all conversation are horses. And so we seen this one big, beautiful horse that couldn't get out of his own way, stay and play. We bought him for $250 and managed to win with him, or not win with him the first time, third. And of course, then you graduate from there. Then you buy horses, and it's something that you get so excited about, and it's so thrilling, to win a race, that once you do it, you're hooked.
Luckily, Mary Hodge was fascinated by the same racetrack lore heard at the lounge. It was these stories, and no doubt a winner or two, that led to Mary's success as a horse trainer.
We come to Florida 12 years ago, and we bought the Maverick Lounge, which is in Oldsmar. We're about 3 miles from Tampa Bay Downs. And like I said, we get all the horsemen there, and you listen to all the talk, and I've always loved horses, but always at a distance, never up close, so to speak. So after listening to all the talk, and I got real interested, and Bobby got interested. Of course, it just is a magnificent profession, and so you just kind of fall into it.
This husband and wife team had an ideal situation. Once Mary learned the ropes of caring for and training the horses, Bobby would handle the handicapping and see to it that her barn was stocked with potential winners.
I got my trainer's license in December '74. I saddled 3 horses. I won 2 back-to-back races.
You got to do a lot of handicapping, in the racing form. Go by past performances, of course. I've had better luck claiming horses, and most of our good horses, or I say decent horses that have did well for us, came from claiming ranks. You really, if you snoop around too much, I found it my experience, if you snoop around too much and try to find out what all the problems the horse has got, you find out he's got a knee, or he's bowed, or he's got an ankle, or he's a bleeder, or so many other problems that these racehorses develop through campaigning and at the races. If you find out too much about them, then you don't want them. You say, hey, they got problems. But all these racehorses, of course, develop these problems because they can run. And the ones that don't have any problems simply never run fast enough to hurt themselves, and they're sound. Well, you don't want them. So I have my best luck of simply just going into the form, not finding out anything about the horse, what size he is, what problems he's got. You look and you see he did well for someone else, or 3 or 4 or 5 races ago, and he's sort of going downhill or so. Then I hope that when I can go on and claim him, give him to Mary, and she can sort of get him back together again and get him pretty healthy, and we've had our best luck doing that.
I'll take the horses in the barn, but he takes care of the condition book, where we're going to run the horses. We argue a lot about who's going to ride, but he mainly picks the jocks when they're going to run, and then he finds the horses in the claiming ranks. He looks for them and finds them.
Doubts and fears can easily be overcome when there's a new challenge to be met, particularly one that provides as many thrilling moments as does horse racing.
I had a fear of horses. Like I say, we were never into horses. I'm from Wisconsin, and I had seen one race when I came down here, so I really had no idea. And like the children, they had ponies when they were young, but I never had anything to do with them.
In fact, we'd been to one race. We came down here 12 years ago from Madison, Wisconsin, and we went down to Arlington Park about 2 years before we came down here, and we didn't know how to bet a perfecta or anything. Since then, I've learned a lot about betting.
A well-designed plan seems to be working for these former Grand Ole Opry stars who are performing with equal success winning races. At the current Calder meeting, Mary has saddled over 70 horses and has finished in the money just under 50% of the time.
Mary has probably won 200 races in the last 10 years, and that's quite a bit, especially for people who we haven't been really into racing all of our lives. We've more or less just the last 10 years.
The 1981 running of the Ruddy Bell Handicap at Calder gave us some firsts in racing history. The race was the first one at a major track by a filly whose connections included an all-female cast. Trainer Mary Hodge saddling her first major stakes horse, and rider Mary Russ also picking up her first major stakes win for owner Ann Ferrantino.
You always hope for a big one like that, but I was in with Sober Jig that day, and she was an awfully tough, and is an awfully tough filly. But she was acting up a little bit that day, and Tarpon, she was just as calm and nice as she'd ever been, and I thought, well, just maybe. And then when she got off the pace and come from behind, she come down the lane, I just knew there was no stopping her. So I was high for 3 days off that race.
This business, they call it chicken one day and feathers the next day. Sometimes you try the hardest, and for a month you won't get a win. And then bang, all of a sudden they just come at you like that. We got fortunate and won 3 races last week with practically 3 horses that we couldn't hit the board with the week before. Deb's Playboy, and that we claimed here for 4,000, and he won by about 10 or 11 lengths last Wednesday. And this Mary Toon, which was one of the 5 fillies that we bought from Ralph Sessa on a Wednesday, and she ran Thursday, and we were lucky to win with her on a Thursday. And then Sunday Song, she's won 5 races here. And we claimed her for $3,500 earlier in the spring over at Tampa, and she's won here for $10,500, and I think the other day she was in for $75,000. She's won 5 here, and that's not bad for a little cheap 35-year-old mare.
Of course, the Rudy Bell 2 summers ago was my biggest high, and then I had another nice little horse at Tampa, which I won the West Coast Handicap and the Gator Handicap, which Marzipan. He was an awfully nice horse. And Gentleman Jeff, I can't leave him out. I loved him dearly. And he broke his leg here last summer, and he was an awfully nice horse for me. But my horses are kind of like my kids. I can only speak for myself. I really get attached to them, unfortunately, in this kind of business. They say that's bad, but I've had better luck getting to know each one of the horses and their personalities, and that's the way I do things, and so far, so good.
Bobby Hodge, who was the center of attention while crooning those country and western tunes to record Opryland audiences, now has to step aside and allow Mary to bask in her well-earned success on the racetrack.
Well, for 20 years when I was working on the road as a musician, entertainer, and working at the Grand Ole Opry, a lot of people come up backstage and say, "Are you Bobby Hodge's wife?" And she'd say, "Yes, I am, you know." Well, for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years or so, I don't mind, they come up to me and say, "Are you Mary Hodge's husband?"
Early, most of the trainers are with him. But you got to give up pretty early to beat out Mary Hodge. In a man's world, this woman has left them all in the dust. Last year, Mary trained 23 winners, 67 in the money, and this year, she's riding high too.
This started as a hobby. We were in the bar business for 25 years, and my hobby kind of got out of control.
Mary has to fret over 20 horses. She has the uncanny talent to treat every one of them just like they won the Kentucky Derby. It's her philosophy.
They have to have their own little diet. They're much happier. A happy horse, it seems like, is a contented horse, and they just seem like they run that way. If you got a horse that's very unhappy, they're not going to give you their all. I really don't know what the formula is. I just work as hard as I can with what I've got and hopefully come up with the best.
Horses are just like people.
Just like
you got to treat them the same way.